I'm back. Sorry about that. I had to get up for a second. Aw, yeah. Sorry about that. Boom.
It's all good. What's up, man?
What's up, what's up, what's up?
Howdy.
To another exciting edition of the Night
Man, that was a dramatic pause. Holy shit.
Sorry.
Oh, it added to it. It's good.
So dramatic. Man, you think I've never streamed before. Please forgive me. What are we, episode 6?
Yes.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Okay, sorry about that. Okay, let's get this party started. So, I'm pretty energized, and I got a lot of stuff I want to talk about. I'm not sure, I'm not sure how you guys feel. Like, I honestly could talk about this next topic all day long. We kind of did our round robin thing to kind of test it out. I really liked us watching, like videos and stuff. Yeah. So I liked how we watched videos and how we like talk about stuff kind of on the fly. I don't know. Maybe having like it be too structured isn't like that structured. Maybe I don't know. I'm trying to figure out what's the best thing that works for us. You know. So I know that Russ had something that he wanted to talk about, and I think it kind of lines up a little bit with one of the stuff that I talk about. And that is content creator and how to become one and whether or not it's worth becoming one, whether or not it's possible to become one, all that kind of stuff. I figured we'd start there. How's that sound, you guys?
Sure.
Yeah.
I got nothing, so it's much better than mine.
Well, the first thing that I really wanted to talk about is what is a content creator? Number one. Now, it might be just easy to say, Arcadum, a content creator is somebody who creates content. And I'm like, but
bam,
but there are many different forms of content, and how you create it may not be the same methodology. I'll give an example. There are some people who their entire streams, they like we kind of did that one time. We just reacted to other people's stuff.
Yeah.
You know? Now, does that mean that their reactions aren't content? I wouldn't say that. It would be fair to say that it wasn't content that they made, but it's based entirely off something that somebody else has made, though.
Can I get a clarification on content creator? This refers, like, content creator has the caveat of being an online related thing, right? Like, you can't be a content creator in real life. Okay.
Yeah. Well, through the guise of
just
Twitch.
A manufacturer.
Specifically, we're talking through Twitch, through the filter of Twitch.
Gotcha.
And I suppose tertiary YouTube and Instagram and Twitter and shit like that, right?
I have a question.
Yeah.
So what's the difference between someone who reacts to other people's videos versus someone who plays video games?
That's exactly what I was going to get into, Snake, before Scott jumped in. That was exactly what I was leading up to, was that I don't think there is a difference between somebody who watches YouTube videos versus somebody who is playing a video game and reacting to it. That I would even dare say that the only exception to those not being the same thing is if you watch somebody specifically for their skill at the game. That would probably be the only time that I would really separate those two things. Because you could, you could also say like, oh, I'm just there for the personality, but it's like, see, this is where things get really weird. Unless somebody is specifically a variety streamer, how can you really say that you're there for their personality? Because if all they play is one game, and when we have empirical evidence that streamers switching that are single game streamers, switching from their single game to another game has just it just destroys their viewership. And the only people who can become variety streamers without starting to be one are people who never really needed to be a single game streamer in the first place. You kind of get what I mean?
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
Like, And that's where it gets kind of really hard, because like I like to use Moon Moon as an example, because he was an Overwatch streamer. And back in the old days when I first met him, he started out like a pretty girthy size, like he had a really good start, but I would not have considered him to have been to the strength and level required to become a variety streamer. So what Moon Moon did is he slowly weaned his chat onto being it. I don't know if any of you guys are longtime Moon Moon fans, but back in the day, he used to have a thing where he streamed twice in a day. He would have a morning/day stream, and then we'd have a night stream. And the night stream was always variety. And he had like a special little like song he would play that was made for him, like Moony, Moony, Moon, where are you know? And somebody made that for him. He made like a couple other things. He has really good production value, but the point is that he slowly, through the course of like a year, weaned his chat into allowing him to become a variety streamer, and therefore I think he's only grown, because ideally variety streamers, from what I've been able to see, have the highest number generation because you hit all those different games. So that means that you hit the community of people that view Twitch purely those games. Like, the names that I see in chat are different when I play Skyrim versus when I play D&D.
I understand that, yeah.
So it's like, you know, you can actually see the difference. And I think that is something that should not be ignored, was the level of work you can put into it, becoming it. But I would dare say that we have to kind of walk up to, let's call it a hard truth, right? How do you grow as a streamer on Twitch? How do you do it? And I've had
have good content, forehead.
Well, yes, but let's actually, before we look at that, I've talked with Devin Nash about this a lot, and I've watched plenty of his videos, and I would consider him to be a pretty good expert on that. But the thing is that and I'll use Devin as an example. Devin Nash knows all this shit. He knows how to do it. He knows what's required. But Devin Nash's stream size is, I would say, smaller than the knowledge that he has. Why is that? What is the factor? It isn't stream time, because he streams pretty much the same time as many of these other streamers do, from what I've seen. Maybe he streams a little less because he's also a CEO of his own company, but I would say that if you cut down the amount of hours, you don't have to stream 14 hours a day in order to be a big streamer. I would say that likely, however, if you stream that much, there's a higher chance of you being one, probably, just from purely being online more. But I would say that there has to be some X factors missing, and then it comes down to, well, what makes good content, right? And honestly, it's something I've really been struggling myself with, because, well, I don't think his personality is boring, chat room, but I do think that personality matters, because there are plenty of people that are hilarious that I see on Twitch, but they're
absolutely,
but they're tiny, and the likelihood of them growing is very small because of how Twitch works. And this is going to be even worse, you know, for the creative crowd, because of what they did on the categories. They removed the art category, which I think is just a ridiculous move to me. Like,
it is kind of ridiculous.
Like, they have one for musicians, which, don't get me wrong, musicians deserve their spot too, but to remove the art category completely, it makes no sense to me.
What was the reasoning behind that?
Well, they condensed it into 4 major categories now, right?
Yeah, it's IRL, games, music, and
esports.
And esports. Which,
why not? You just put like arts and crafts and music.
Yeah, why does esports need its own? Just use creative. Like, they had a category for creative, but they broke that down into arts and music and all that. But then they bring back these big main 4, but music has its own, but art has none. And it makes no sense to me. You know?
I'll consider music art too, so that makes no sense.
Yeah, exactly.
No, I mean, I'm not. This isn't an argument, in my opinion, of whether or not music is art, because it is.
No, I'm not arguing. I'm saying it makes no sense.
Drawn art. Like, if we're going to be completely honest, art in its definition encompasses all those things. So you just make that the art category, because music falls under that. But making it music, it's like, what the fuck are you supposed to do? Like, Now there's no specific art area for you to go, and there's a lot of art streamers like Daphne. Daphne. God, what's her number?
39.
39. Daph 39. She's a big artist streamer. Like, she also varieties, but she's really big in her art. Like Lily Peach, who does a lot of art. John Silva.
Daph.
39
right.
Daph. Excuse me, I might have got it wrong. All those people are art streamers, right? Oh, well,
absolutely.
I'd say that Lily is variety, but the point is that there are plenty of people that make their entire stream focused around art, like drawing or like sculpting, or those. Have you seen some of those craft streamers? Like,
oh yeah,
these people are like building
woodworking
statues,
and shit.
Woodworking, like that. That stuff has a place, and yeah, it may not have 10,000 viewers, but they have 150. That's not nothing. That's a stream. That's a living. You can make a living off that. Hell, when I had 100, like 2.5 years ago, when I had like 100 people watching me, I had 400 subs. That was enough. Like, I could survive off that. And, as you make it up better and better, you could also sell that product. There's all kinds of stuff you can do. You can sell the stuff that you make. But anyway, the point is it all comes down to, I think what this is an indication of what Twitch values as a content creator. I think that's what it means. Because why would they take away art? Like, think about that. Why would they do that? But they would add music. To me, that says that Twitch believes that music is going to make them more money and generate more interest than art would. And regardless of whether or not you agree with that, remember, this isn't my opinion. This is the perceived opinion of Twitch by doing that.
Yeah.
And they must have a basis for it. They must have done the numbers, like some, accountant made that make sense in their head.
Yeah.
Do you think that when they went their whole stint of Bob Ross, they were all like, this is all right and cool. And then they went with things like having T-Pain and Snoop Dogg, and they're like, well, this is making a lot more money. We should go with this music thing.
Because the music artists are... See, and this is where we kind of blur the line. Those are celebrities, not musicians, in the strictest sense of why they bring that shit to the table. You get what I mean? It is.
Yeah, they're not on there making the music. Yeah. I guess Herman Lee is kind of different. He was actually making.
Well, yeah, he was making music. Then he got DMCA, but I'm not going to get into that right now. Like my whole thing it isn't that like T-Pain isn't a musician. I'm not saying that before anybody takes that out of context.
But on Twitch, he's an entertainer.
On Twitch, people are there because it's T-Pain, because he is ultimately an entertainer. I don't know does he even do music on stream? I think he does like some freestyles probably. That would be pretty sick, but I don't think he strictly makes music. What I'm saying by musician streamer, I mean people like 8-Bit Drummer. Have you guys seen him?
I know of him.
Yeah. Like 8-Bit Drummer. Look, all they do on stream is make fucking music. That's all they do. They play music. They demonstrate their skill with an instrument. Shit like that. And that guy's awesome, right? Or another example is like Kelly, who's in chat. Everybody knows who Kelly is in here. She's going to be making music. That's her whole stream, is what she is, because she is a musician, right?
Mm-hmm.
So, but now she doesn't have a place. Or rather, I should say, now she has her own category, but it's like, what about people like Ashley Lang? Or like any of the thousands of, I say thousands, but like 100+ artists that are in the Verum Discord. They're like, John Silva won't have a place to do his art anymore. And that guy's a Magic the Gathering artist. He's a legitimate, like, professional artist to a level of like, I don't want to say others aren't legitimate, but he's like the best example I have of like, here is an artist, like, a living artist that makes money doing it. He's an art director, did all this shit. You know what I mean? So it's like, if he goes on Twitch, now he doesn't have a place anymore. So that
have they done this change already?
They haven't done it yet. It's their plan.
Okay.
It's their plan. They haven't done it yet. But if you look on Twitter, there's people that are freaking out about it, just losing their shit over it. And there's,
I mean, I can already see the 4 categories.
Well, I was saying I just went to art and I saw it was still up, so they haven't actually removed it yet.
There's no plan to remove their art directory. Well, then why is it? Then that has to be a misleading tweet then, because the tweet I saw showed only 4 major categories.
Yeah, I only see the 4 major categories of games, IRL, music, and esports right now. And then under that, they have different categories.
Oh, they put it under IRL. Well, that... Okay, so they didn't remove it, but that's... why is it there? That doesn't make any sense. Why not? I think it would take more mental gymnastics to put art under IRL than it would be just to make a creative category and then put art and music and shit under that.
Well, I think that's kind of what's happening. I think it's almost like a folder on a computer that has subfolders in it. It's not like IRL encompasses everything and art. It's like there's now a section under IRL called art, so you would still find it kind of the same way. I think that's what they're saying.
Yeah, art, well, yeah, but that makes less sense for art to be folded into the in real life section. Like, that doesn't make any sense to me. Like why?
It's also kind of strange. I don't know. When I hear IRL, all I think about is actually, you know, people doing IRL streams, going out, and maybe just chatting.
Yeah,
like, I don't see much else being under that. I guess talking as well.
Taking a podcast and putting that under IRL, okay, sure. But why is music its own category and art isn't? That doesn't make any sense. And to be clear,
like I don't think under the same house.
I don't think this is a straw man's argument, by the way. You know, like, it's not, because if you make the supposition that art is an in real life thing, well, then so is music.
Yeah.
Like,
I do think it should be just renamed to creative and include both of them.
Yeah. So y'all didn't read the tweet and trying to nice again. Tell Arcadum he's wrong. What? Okay, let me look at the tweet. Twitch. Let me go look at the tweet. Make sure I'm not misreading it. Pretty sure. God, where is that tweet? I'm sure somebody will find it and link it to me. But anyway, my whole point is this, and that is, how do you what makes good content creation? What is defined as good content creation? And how do we get to that? How do we get to that point of, like, if somebody wanted to be a streamer, what would they do, right? And I think that Twitch values is important. Like, if they put music in its own category, that therefore tells me they value music more than art. That's why it has its own category, its own directory.
The whole point of esports.
Yeah, that's why esports is separate from games, right? You know what I mean?
It's really odd too, because when you go to each category, when you go to games, they'll show you like a list of games you can check out. If you go to IRL, then you get a whole bunch of different categories. Essentially, that's where your crafts and stuff are. Esports shows you a bunch of video games, but you go to music and it's just, you know, just streams. There's no subcategory for music. It's odd that it is its own category.
Yeah.
Well, all right. So are we talking about what makes a successful streamer?
Yeah. And,
okay.
And I think what Twitch values is important.
That's part of that, yeah.
Yeah, it's part of that.
I don't think that's the most important part about what determines.
Oh, I don't think it's the most important
okay.
part, but it also it's just the most, like, controversial factor that's come up recently, because that happened like today or yesterday or some shit. Like they
what do you think is the most important part then?
Well, see, now we get to the hard stuff, right? And I'm going to say some things here that some people probably aren't going to like, okay? But remember, we have to be honest if we want to make any actual progress. And I want to be very clear. My own success does... How can I explain this? I don't think that you can make a career out of being a D&D streamer. I don't think that you can, because
even if you were the best D&D streamer, like, or just
see, I agree. I don't think it's relevant.
Well, you see, that's the problem is that the reason that I am is because of networking. That's it. It has nothing to do with what my actual game is. Now, I know you guys are going to defend it. I know you guys are going to come up and like to fight some shadow entity that's telling me I'm a bad DM. That's no. Take a step back and really listen to me. I'm not the only DM on Twitch. I'm certainly not the only DM that has a compelling world, and I'm most certainly not the best DM that exists. Not even close. The problem is, nobody knows who those people are. And Twitch is not a place where you can go to discover new people easily, because it doesn't have a lot of tools to help you do that yet, or the tools are inefficient. YouTube's algorithm helps a little, and it seems to be a better option than Twitch, but even YouTube doesn't really have that. Because at the end of the day, what makes somebody watch your stream, they have to know about it first. And that's the hardest part, is that initial exposure. You know?
Mm-hmm.
And there is no illusion in my mind that I would not be where I am if it was not for Stir. See, anybody who's known me a long time or has been here since the beginning knows what happened. Knows what happened way in the beginning. I was an Overwatch streamer when it started, and I did it as part-time. It wasn't a thing I was trying to do. D&D was always my thing. But I was role-playing every time I played Reinhardt. Stir met me, liked what I was doing, and then found out that I ran D&D, and he always wanted to try it. So if Stir doesn't take an interest in my game, and Stir did a lot for me. He taught me how to stream better. He hosted me. He did a lot of shit that he didn't have to do. And he did it because he believed in me. Right? In his tsundere way. He's actually way sweeter than people give him credit. Like he is way sweeter of a guy than people give him credit for. But he taught me an important lesson about Twitch. And that is, if nobody sees you, how good you are doesn't matter. In a platform like this. You know, and to be clear, Stir at the time and even now, he's not a small name. He was huge on YouTube, right? He's got plenty of strength of his own, and he chose to share it with me. And then by doing that, other people were more inclined to because they found out who I was. Like Moon was the same. Moon was the second guy that shared his strength with me. Seagull as well. Seagull doesn't like D&D at all. He's not into any of the stuff that I'm into. He believed in what I was doing, and he hosted me too. But that's where it comes from. That is the most important thing, is that somebody who has something has to believe in you. And the only way people believe in you is consistent quality and conviction. You have to have the time to put into it. You have to have the willpower to survive the bad times and the strain it'll put on you to constantly have that voice tell you that maybe this isn't worth doing. And the third thing is that, yeah, there's an aspect of luck to this. There is. Because I was randomly match made into a game with Stir in it. I could have never met him. But fate dictated that I would. But if I wasn't already doing what I was doing and being committed to my craft and doing all that stuff, then that opportunity wouldn't have been taken advantage of in the first place. And that's what people need to realize, is that every day that you live and do these things, you're going to have an opportunity. It will happen, but you're going to miss it if you give up, because you miss every shot you don't take. That is what is important to me.
Thank you, Wayne Gretzky.
You know, that's really what it is to me. And that's why some people call me a simp and shit, right? Because of how much
what?
Because of how much like I'll support like Kelly Siren or like Red, for example, or Momo.
Whoa, your friends? Ones you have trust and you have the confidence in?
To be clear, the reason I supported them was because I believed in them, because I knew that I'm doing that for someone else, and it is my privilege and honor to do that for someone else. Because I know that if I don't, then people won't find out who they are. Like, I met Kelly in VR chat. She was a fantastic singer. Now everybody in this chat knows who she is. Because first of all, she had talent to show, but also because I helped. I knew without it, it would drastically lower her chances, so I did. And I did it because it was the right thing to do in my mind. That's the reason why I support Momo too. Like when I met Momo, she had her own stream going on. She was doing well. But then I really pushed for it, and boom, got in her corner. Although she didn't need nearly as much help. And then, the next person I'm working on is Red, who's one of the funniest streamers I've ever heard. Like, Red is hilarious. Nobody knows who she is. And this is my way of changing that. And I do that because somebody did the same thing for me. And I'm going to say it right here again. The fact that Russ and Snake and Scott aren't as big as they are is a travesty to me, because they're awesome. And that's why I did this. To use what I had to give to others. Now, this isn't about, oh, wow, Arcadum's so nice. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that is the mentality that everyone needs in order for those people that have talent and have exceptional whatever it is can rise above, because that's what's needed to make it on this platform, in my opinion. And then there comes the harder truth. And that is, not all of you will. There's going to be lots of people that are going to try, and it's never going to happen for them. And everybody needs to accept that risk. You know?
That's why the number one, like, if people just ask like one question, like, what's the best tip for being a streamer? I give the same answer every time, and that is, don't go into it expecting it to be your job. Just go into it for fun, and if it happens, great. But relying on what is essentially a large amount of luck is not a good idea.
And I think networking is probably the major step. I really think.
Yep.
Like, you got to network. You got to collaborate. Can you make it on your own? Yeah, but
you don't even have to be like, shady about it. Like, like weasel your way in. Hey, you want to host me? Like, you don't have to do that. Like, I remember what I did with like the whole Dark Souls community back when I streamed that stuff. Like, I would do duels with like bigger streamers, and then they would say, "Oh, this guy's pretty good," and then 2 guys watch, and then it's just stuff like that. Like, you can naturally involve yourself in another person's community in such a way that still is beneficial, but it's not like you're just manipulating it. I think that's kind of what you have to do. You have to involve yourself in a larger community. It's because you can't just start from nothing.
Yeah, or you need to realize that the communities that people have don't belong to them. I don't think that's the right attitude to even have.
True.
Twitch is a community that we are all in. That's the proper attitude. Twitch is a community that we're all in, right? Every streamer is in the Twitch community, and that's how you should look at it. Because if somebody goes from my stream to watch Kelly, for example, I'm not going to get mad that that's happening. What kind of ridiculous nonsense would lead to that? Now, people are like, "Oh, that's because you're big, Arcade." I'm like, "Okay, well, let's say this, right? Let's say I had 50 people watching me right now, right? And then Kelly has 150, right? And then she starts streaming and 20 of them leave. Who do I get mad at? Why?" And there are a lot of people that won't get past that shit. They can't get past that mental block. I know it hit me too. 2 years ago, dude, I had 20 people and I had the lowest amount I'd ever have play. I was playing Deus Ex Machina. The, God. What is that game called?
Mankind Revolution?
Yeah, whatever that one was.
The new one, the Jensen, yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it is, yeah.
I was playing that. I was playing Deus Ex, and I had 20 people watching me, and I was distraught. And I was distraught because I had 50, and then Stir started streaming, and I got so down on myself. And then I reviewed, man, why am I getting down on that? And then I conquered that part of myself.
How'd you do it? Tell me your secrets.
I fucking got over it. Cut it out of my mind.
Taking notes. Okay.
Yeah, just set it on fire and then move on. I know it's not that easy, and people are gonna have different ways of dealing with it. But this is what I do. I meditate. I find the thing that I don't like or that's causing me problems. I crush it and I delete it from my memory, and then there you go. That's what I do. And then I move on. And I keep doing that every time it pops up until it doesn't pop up anymore.
Man, I should have went to the military.
Yeah, military taught me that. Visualize.
Yeah.
Visualize works, man. So, yeah.
The thing is, though, most people, I think it's unfair to say most. I would wager just that there are people like you that want to share that. There are people that wish to hoard it. And that is going to stifle a lot of people, because no matter what, people are not going to adopt that mindset willingly when they can just have it all, kind of thing.
I think that, on top of that, even if the creator doesn't have that mentality, they can invite the kind of attitudes and the kind of people who do have that mentality.
Mm-hmm.
True.
Surround their inner circle with people that have beneficial net positives on their mood is a really big one. Yeah. Like, this is something else that you got to be careful on who you stream and play with, because you don't want to have people that will cause you distress, right? Because people are going to see that. You know what I mean? Like, people are going to see that. And I see people like quoting Dr. K. What I'm talking about isn't what Dr. K was talking about. Pretending the problem doesn't exist is not what I'm saying. Solving it is. Overcoming it is. Accepting that it's a part of you is a part of that. to be clear. But yeah, I mean, it's one of those things, because it's making good content. And here's another thing too. Let me ask you three this. If you do something specifically for the content, do you think that's right? Do you think that's natural or inorganic?
Do it specifically for the content.
Yeah, like when somebody like trolls somebody on stream specifically for the entertainment value of the people watching, not because they want to do it. You see what I mean? Because that's happened plenty of times, especially in the bigger streamers, right? Now, the initial response that I have to that is, oh, that's not right. That's inorganic. But all the bigger streamers do it, for at least from what I've seen. All is an absolute, so I won't use that. But a vast majority that I have seen to do that. So it's like, is it wrong?
I still don't think I fully... Can you give like an example? I don't fully
like,
understand.
Let's say okay, here's an example. Let's say you and I were playing Dead by Daylight, right? And you were teaching me to play the game. And as a killer, you just started teabagging on me because I didn't know how to stand up. and you did it
possible
because people watching would find it funny.
Oh, okay, so you're saying kind of throwing something under the bus and for entertainment purposes?
Yeah, stuff like that.
What about like exaggerating a reaction? Because I just figure that as clowning.
That's a different thing, I think. Exaggerating a reaction. Oh, you brought up clowning. That's a...
I mean, that's what I consider it. Like,
oh, yeah.
If I'm
that's
driving
like...
a car and I flip it, I'm gonna go, "Whoa, dudes! See, you're all laughing. It's cheap, but it works."
Well, see, and that's the thing, though. That's a great point to bring up, because that's the entire profession of clown, right? Is to overreact, yeah. Right? That's the whole thing. That's why they wear expressive makeup and they've got crazy shoes, as they exaggerate everything, right?
Right.
And I think that you bringing that up is actually a faux point, because it's like, yeah. And but everybody does it, even if they're not a comedy streamer.
Yeah, you're always playing to an audience.
Yeah.
So even if there are things that you wouldn't do off stream that you do on, like, that's part of it. You recognize that you're an entertainer. I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
I don't think so either. I just think I think there are some people that when they say, I want to become a good streamer, don't realize that that is something you have to incorporate. Or by not incorporating it, that it's not about whether or not that's honest. It's about that everybody knows that it's happening. How can I explain this? So something that I learned when I went to my second TwitchCon, and this was specifically after Kraken snubbed me for the second time. I remember this very, very specifically.
Son of a bitch.
It's okay. It's not his fault. He didn't know who I was. And this is the point that I'm making. Now we're really good friends, right? Like, he loves the game. We're holding hands. We're skipping through the fields together. But he didn't know me then. All he saw was another smaller streamer that just got partner that was in the Twitch lounge trying to talk to the bigger, more established people. Because there is something that everybody... Now, I'm not saying that these were his thoughts at all, but this is the perception that I felt from all those people at this time, was that I was the small guy. I was the new guy trying to make myself heard, right? And now, this isn't to say that they mistreated me or anything, but this is the game that you play. Everyone there knows that networking is the game that everyone must play in order to grow. And that is, there's a fine line between sincerity and need. And being able to balance those two things are really important. Now, it is fortunate for me that my mainstay of what I do is also a natural networking tool. It's probably one of the oldest and best in modern day society, and that's Dungeons and Dragons. It's a game that requires other people, and it's a more intimate setting that isn't as disconnected as video game matchmaking can be. It's a very intimate experience, right? You experience a lot more in D&D with another person than you would in a standard video game. So, because of the natural networking aspect, my sincerity was able to be very high, and my need was being met, which was networking. But there are other people that aren't like me, that their main thing may be that they like talking to people, right? So they'll go there, and then they're trying to talk to like someone like XQC, right? And they have to be able to talk to him, but keep their sincerity high enough so that it doesn't outpace their need, because then they'll come off as disingenuous.
Right.
So this is another thing. Like, I was fortunate that, like, let me ask you this, and please be honest with me, Snake and Russ. I met you two at that ramen shop. You had no idea who I was. I didn't know who Cry was at the time. I didn't know Scott. I didn't know anybody. I didn't really know Baru that well. You know, I only known him a couple of months, right?
Right.
And that was the end with him and Alex. And I sat down and we started talking about, and Joe was there too. And when I started talking about D&D, what's your initial response, right? Like, how did you feel? Because you didn't know who I was.
To me, it's just like, I already loved D&D before I even met you, so it was just like, this guy likes D&D too. That's awesome. The only like real reaction I had is that you were pretty quiet, and so I didn't know how to approach you because I'm also kind of pretty quiet as well. But that's really it.
And most people don't know that about me. I'm actually pretty quiet in real life because I spend a lot of time watching people.
Yeah. But then the day you DM'd me, I was like, oh fuck, D&D.
Yeah, I remember that.
And for me, we sat next to each other at the end of the table closest to the door.
Yeah.
And for about 3/4 of the meal, neither of us said a word to each other.
Yeah.
And it was only, I forget who initiated, but one of us asked about D&D, and that opened the door, and we started talking about experiences and like where we came from and all that. And I was personally trying to gauge where you were at with it.
Yeah. Was it the girl that was there? God, what was her name?
Zeppelin.
What was her name?
Zeppelin.
Zeppelin?
Like Led Zeppelin.
Was it her? I don't remember who it was either.
It's
she was
possible.
There. Yeah.
Maybe,
I think she was the only girl there.
I think she was the one who asked it, because I remember the first time I heard you speak towards me was in reaction to something that was said. So I don't think it was you that started, but I think it was her, because it came from that direction, because I don't think it was me, because I was really quiet at that time. I don't know. I fucking remember. But the point is it's like, first meeting wise, I got lucky because those two liked D&D already. But then what about Joe? And now I get to reveal my aha card. Joe had never played D&D before. He didn't know anything of that. This man's a professional voice actor. All right?
For JRPGs, no less.
Yeah, this guy is like fucking way over here, right? But we're talking about it, and then when I asked, he said yes. Now, why did he say yes?
I can also, Baru and Alex were talking you up. Like, even before I met you,
That's
they're
true.
like, Arcadum's here.
Those two were
I was like,
awesome.
what the fuck's an Arcadum?
Yeah.
Like, he is the DM. And
Yeah,
I was like,
okay.
Oh, okay.
That is something that, now that right there, that is a product of my time put into the craft. That people talk you up. That's, people don't talk up things they don't like. So if you make somebody like what you're doing enough, they'll talk you up. Now that right there, chat room, that's a key. I'm not going to sit here and say my D&D's awesome, but I will say that I've put 18 years of my life into it, and it shows that. And people will talk about that. So if you're good at something, then be the best at it that you can be, and then people will talk about it. That's the representation of an opportunity not being squandered. But this is other people taking those opportunities for you. So, and this is another reason why it's so hard, because what if they didn't? Joe might not have been interested. Hell, maybe you two wouldn't have. Maybe you two wouldn't even have fucking given me another thought, right? Who knows? You know, it's one of those things. It's like, life is really weird like that. And what makes a good streamer, or whether or not you can make good content, I think is dependent a lot on the networking aspect, but more specifically on you selling yourself. Because at the end of the day, I think that's really something else too. Because my product has a lot of me in it.
It also speaks for itself, I think, in ways that other forms of media and content do not.
Yeah.
I'm really sad I wasn't in this picture.
Dude, oh my god, this picture is sick.
Oh, yeah, you had like teal hair.
Yeah, it did.
I forgot all about that.
That must have been the third TwitchCon, right? That's the one I didn't go to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Feels bad.
Are you seeing this?
In chat here, I'll link it in our
Old picture.
night council. There you go.
Chat, I was right next to Joe. I could smell him.
Why was Joe there? Did he come with Baru and Alex?
Yeah, I think so.
Oh, okay.
I was upset because through the majority of that that meal, I had no idea who he was. Like,
I didn't know either. And then so I was like, he's a voice actor from Fire Emblem. I was like, oh, neat.
Nobody told me.
Like,
He smelled of
playing
Old
that right
Spice.
now.
All right.
What a coincidence. I play that. Man, that was
Man,
so
it's
sick.
gonna be wild the next TwitchCon because so many people are gonna be like,
Oh,
yo, you
fuck
play
yeah.
that one character, I play this character too. Oh, let's role play.
Dude. Oh, I'm so excited for that.
Yeah.
Can you have a D&D panel, please?
Yeah, just do VerumCon. Yeah, I've already been asked about that. Jeez.
No, like non-jokingly, you can totally do that. Like at TwitchCon, have your own like panel and everyone.
Oh,
meet
for
up and
sure.
stuff.
I
They're
thought
easy
about
to
doing
get.
it.
You should. It's actually pretty fun.
I mean, I have no
Yeah.
idea what I'd even do. Like, just
You
talk.
talk for 30 minutes for bullshit, and then you take 30 minutes questions. The funnest shit ever.
Well, there you go. I guess I could try that. Yeah.
You would definitely be able to. If they gave us
Yeah.
something, they'd definitely give you something.
Yeah. Yeah. I'll give it the old college try.
Hell yeah.
Talk D&D with people. Man, what a great picture that is. Fantastic, dude. That's when it
Oh, I
started.
miss people.
Look how clean shaven Alex's head is. Holy shit.
I know, right? God, it's immaculate. He's so powerful. But yeah, God, that was what was that, a year ago?
That was
That was
2019.
2 years ago, almost.
Was it?
No, it was
Well,
A year and
no,
2
no, no, I
months.
guess
A
you're
year
right,
and
yeah.
2 months.
A year and 2 months ago. Man, a year, so much can change in a year.
Wait, this just side note. When do you think final fight of this phase will be roughly? Like month-wise?
It depends entirely on March, on where you guys are at in March. Because if things are progressed far enough, then some things are going to go down.
Okay, so TwitchCon would be too far away. Fuck. All right, never mind.
Probably too far away for the final fight. But the final
But I
fight
mean,
would have
if,
just happened. Oh
Maybe
man,
we can get control of Rona, then we could just do a meetup. That'd be swell.
That'd be good enough for me.
bro.
Don't talk about this shit. It's gonna make me sad.
But anyway, back to the original topic of how to be a good content creator. My whole thing would just be as honest as possible about what it is that you're doing. Don't fill yourself with a big head, but also don't think that it's impossible, because it's not. You need to approach it with a healthy level of realism and with a healthy level of hope. And I think that's the best way to do it.
I would like to add a plea to creators out there.
Oh, sure, go ahead, bud.
Don't snub questions. Like, if you get questions from people starting off, try to answer them as best you can, even if you don't know the person, because they're just trying to find wisdom. It may come off as disingenuous, or them just like trying to tap you for information. I mean, that they are. They don't know you and you don't know them, but still, you have information that you could provide, and that help, I'm sure, would be appreciated.
Yeah, absolutely. Man, I can't tell you how many times I'd have people come in the chat and ask me, how do I be a good dungeon master? It's like, man, that's a hard question for me to answer in 12 seconds. But
it's better to like guide them in the correct path and stuff.
Absolutely. And I always try to tell them, just never stop. Don't give up. Don't stop. You miss every shot you don't take. That's, man, God. Can you imagine if I didn't ask Russ to play? We'd never have Mad Mork. Never would have met Scott. Would never have had Ives. so many things wouldn't have happened if I just didn't ask.
It's every day that you try, you slightly increase your chances of something happening. Just one little snowball butterfly effect event happening. And that's all you have to do. Just be consistent with it. Might not happen, but it might.
Yeah. Never expect, but always try. It's really...
Yep.
And it's hard. No, I get it, chat. It's hard to do that stuff and be like, man, why doesn't anybody like me? Oh, believe me. I understand that kind of darkness that can get in you. But you just gotta push past it. You just gotta... I think there's a level of satisfaction, too. Like, be satisfied with what you're doing. You know? Because
that's one of the hardest things for me, at least, is just taking gratitude in what I got.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that too. Like, I'm doing okay, and I still sometimes fall into that. It's so hard not to.
Yeah. God. Oh boy. But yeah. And and when people ask me like D&D questions, I always answer, do I think you can make a career out of it? Look, when they ask me, what approach would you take to this? What approach would you take to this? Because D&D is an incredibly subjective game, and the things that you like will not be something that other people will like, so on and so forth, you know, into the infinite. But
yeah.
But I do think that there are certain things that are universal to making a living off of it. And that is, you got to go with some certain factors. Like, you got to, you know, you have to be the most serious one at the table. That's one of the ones that it took me a long time to really learn. That doesn't mean you can't joke around, but you have to be the most serious one at the table because you represent reality in that world, in the world that you're building, in the game that's being played. And
talking about D&D specifically?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
The dungeon master has to be the most serious one at the table. At least that's what I believe.
One of the reasons I really like how you run is because you don't show that bias and you run things like a machine as rules are written.
Yeah.
And that's the best part about your D&D for me, at least.
Yeah, and you know, it's cold, sure. It can seem cold, perhaps even cruel sometimes.
But that's life, baby.
But when I ran the experiment of which one is better, the machine, the lawful neutral, you know, faceless arbiter approach worked more often than the I want to be their friend, because it always ends up the same. If you try to be, you know, I want to be the friendly DM to make sure nothing bad happens to you, then you devalue everything that you're trying to throw at them. And then you'll get the player that asks you, please save me, I don't want my character to die. And then if you save them, then you have invalidated everything that they've accomplished and all the other characters have accomplished. But if you don't save them because of the, you know, buddy aspect that you've put out, then they'll think that you don't like them. And it's just not conductive. It's just not conductive at all. And man, building the living world, let me tell you, I've had people come into the DM team that were that kind of like DM, and that they were that kind of player that believes that's the right way things should be. And they hated how I did things. How I did things like a cold machine. They thought that was like, you know, the number one thing we should care about Arcadum is the fun of the players,
player experience.
The fun of the players, and they would use that as their herald's call as to why I shouldn't do the things that I'm doing. But what they don't understand is that I'm serving the player's experience more than they are. Coddle players, and you remove the danger, you remove the glory of victory, and if you do that, then it doesn't matter.
No.
Yeah, fun of the players does not translate to easy.
Yeah.
Conflict is what the game is about.
Exactly. That's exactly how it works. And
that's why I'm not afraid to die.
Man.
Because it makes a good story.
Absolutely. And that's something that people might not agree with, but I've built my entire career based off of it. So, you know, it's got to be right to a certain extent, or else I wouldn't be here. It's kind of the way that it is. And there are some people in the living world when I was building it that could not accept that fact, that perhaps was a wrong outlook, that, you know, that the outlook that I had was correct, and they couldn't stand it and they left. Some of them even like openly, actively tried to sabotage me too. It was pretty intense.
Jesus.
Yeah, some of them are still trying to do it now, but now I've gotten so big that it's like, It's just noise. But anyway.
Here's one thing. One thing I want to say about character death, at least.
Yeah.
If our characters die, it doesn't have to be immediate, but just consider me for another game. You know, I still want to play with you. Okay, that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying.
Slides 20 under desk. You know, just.
Also, here's some character sheets you might want to review.
Yeah, just
it's like the equivalent of going to like a music artist with like your album, like, hey, you want to listen to this? You know, just look at my character sheet.
Yeah, tell me what you think, bro.
I got a playwright going on. You want to check it out?
I got a playwright, brother. But yeah, you know, so content creation wise, I guess some final words on it is don't expect to make it, but never stop trying to. That's the best I
And
can really
don't
give you.
try to be a League of Legends streamer because it's probably not going to work.
Well, there is something to be said for market saturation. And to be
Yeah.
clear, chat room, that isn't to say that there isn't things that you can do to improve your chances. But if you don't make content that you believe in, then that's the first battle you have to win, I think. You have to believe in what it is that you're doing.
That's why I always say start it as a hobby, never as a job.
Yeah,
Because then you will. Because you already like it because you're doing it for fun.
absolutely. And then somebody will notice you, and then they'll help you. They'll pour effort into you, and then things will grow from there. And then we all help each other.
Provided you're not a shithead.
Well, that too.
That helps.
And yet sometimes there are shitheads that
Yeah.
have a lot of viewers. So
Yeah.
Well, look, man. Success does not, unfortunately, care about the morality of the person, I think, to a certain extent. Because it's just like...
it doesn't.
It really
Sadly.
doesn't. Like, you could be a complete and utter asshole, but people will still want to see you talk, or hear you, or watch you play a game.
Even if they don't like you, they'll hate watch you.
Oh man, hate watching is a
I
whole
hate
nother.
watch DSP, dude. I can't.
I hate watch DS.
I'm pressing buttons, dude.
Wait, DSP stanky?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
I was like,
There's
what
another.
did Lucio do to you?
Dark Side Philip.
Who?
Oh.
The,
Oh, you sweet
the
summer
king of
child.
hate. What is he? 1997 Evo champion for I can't remember, Street Fighter 3 Alpha or
Two, I
something like
think.
that.
The cock-
Okay, yeah.
the cockroach
some
of
really-
the internet? What?
You
Yeah,
got to
that's
watch
one
some of
way
his
of putting
videos sometimes. Watch some of his like hate compilations. It's
he did come in
he
third
is
place.
fun to hate.
People will absolutely gravitate towards people they hate, and people can gain success from that, but people will not help them.
That's true.
Okay, bro, but it's pretty wild to come out and say I'm the king of hate, and then you can't accept hate. I don't
Yeah.
I'm just like, oh, okay. I don't know who that is.
Now let's
It
talk
might be
about
better.
low tier God. Oh my God, what a God!
Jesus. But anyway, that was good. I think we made some strides in that. There was something else that you brought up there, Russ, that would have been pretty sick, and that is you wanted to talk about loot boxes, right?
Oh sure, yeah, we can talk about those.
All right, let's talk about
Down
loot
for that.
boxes.
Let's see here. So I guess really the question, like in a whole, is have loot boxes ever been done well? Can you guys think of any like unacceptable or acceptable?
Define like a loot box.
A loot box. All right. Let's go with the standard. All right. I wrote down a question here. I guess it kind of would encompass what a loot box is. But do you think card packs is loot boxes? Like booster packs?
Like booster packs.
Yeah, because I mean, those are essentially what loot boxes
That is
kind
what a
of.
loot box is, kind of.
Yeah. But I mean, can you think of any time where it was unacceptable or actually acceptable and stuff like that, or any games like I mean, TF2 did it for a while, Overwatch, FIFA, or Battlefront 2, or stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard to say because if you talk about like like you said booster packs as like the original loot box, well, you are technically gambling for a chance to gain advantage over other people if you get like a good card or something like that. So you can't even have like the thing like I always mention like Path of Exile, like they have like loot boxes and stuff, but they're just cosmetic stuff. They're just for your own personal benefit if you want to do it, go for it. It doesn't make you stronger or have an advantage over anybody else. But in that example, like a booster pack, the original thing is technically possibly giving you an advantage. So what is the line?
See, I have mixed feelings about that, because on the one hand, yeah, like booster packs can give you an advantage. You pay a flat fee for a chance to get something that you want, but you could also just buy the card that you want. So it's not as if
I feel like times have changed booster packs a bit. Now there's websites where you can just specifically order the card that you want. I feel like back in the day, like in the early 90s, like in the early, days of like Magic and Pokemon and stuff like that, you couldn't really, there was no online website to go say, I want a holo Charizard. Like you just couldn't do that. So
there were places though, like there were card shops that you could go to and do that.
They sold individual cards like that?
Yeah, people
absolutely.
See, I don't remember that. So never mind.
But of course, it would all depend on the stock of the card shop itself, if you would get the card you want, which is kind of almost like a loot box on its own.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, there were weird economies that sprung up over trading card games back then. That's how you would wind up with $300 Charizards.
Oh yeah, especially just for that little first edition stamp.
Yeah.
So what is an acceptable loot box if there is one?
Well, okay.
I feel like the Overwatch system was pretty acceptable because it didn't change gameplay and it was all cosmetic.
Okay. Go ahead.
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Snake. I've been talking a lot. Go ahead, buddy.
In the time I did play Overwatch, I had zero problems personally with the loot box system, because it was just cosmetic. It's not why I played the game.
Right. Yeah. But when you get advantages, just like a booster pack, or how bad it was in Battlefront 2 and stuff like that, then it seems like it's definitely just for money. Because if you're not paying for the booster yourself, then you are being left behind because you're not doing as well, or at least that's probably people had felt. And then there's also the whole running the gambler's high, where you want to get the best stuff, and so you're actually dumping real money into it instead of just time.
I think I'm gonna have a hot take on this. Beep boop,
All
beep
right.
boop. Arcadum hot take.
Loot boxes are good.
No. It's I think if you have a problem with loot boxes, then you have a problem with video games. Let me explain what I mean. There are certain levels in which people are okay with an RNG system that has a paid-for source existing. For card games, since it's a segmented gameplay, the reason that people are okay with booster packs, even though it's exactly the same as loot boxing, is because the entire game is segmented into that method. Because when you buy a video game, you bought the game. Whereas that's not the case in Magic the Gathering, for example, is that you're buying a segmented game. The entirety of the game are the cards, but to get them, you have to buy in smaller increments, or go to special events, or so on and so forth. But there isn't a real difference between them. It's just that the methodology behind it is what people have a problem with. It's the same, like, and for people that say that, I think it's okay if they have loot boxes for cosmetics, I think that you are actually making a false argument there. Because providing no in-game benefit tactically in terms of winning the objective of the game, you could say that's different and maybe that's where your line is, but make no mistake, the aesthetic appeal is it's just as important to people, especially based off of like gender and upbringing and all kinds of other factors.
Like identification.
They're saying the line is not clear.
No, I'm saying that the line isn't there. People make up the line to make it okay to do one thing over the other. But let's be very clear on something, right? And this is specifically the argument I'm making is against aesthetics being okay. Because just because an aesthetic doesn't change how the game works, it does change your perspective of the game and your enjoyment of it. And the thing about that is, and this is where it kind of gets different, there is a difference of aesthetics. Like, for example, I'll use League of Legends as a great example. There are some champions that have no skins at all compared to other champions, right? So people won't play those characters. There is empirical evidence on that. So
Really?
there is
Wow.
empirical evidence that people will not play characters that do not have skins. They are
No
more
skin, no play.
they are more likely to play characters that have more skins. Now, some of that is based off of that the more popular characters get more skins. That's true. But there's also empirical evidence that will show you that. So guess what? Now the game is affected. Your choice of aesthetic has now affected the game, just not directly. It's very indirect, but it's there. So that means because nobody plays this character, that means that character doesn't get changed. That means they slip out of the meta. That means that character is less important. That changes how the game works.
That is wild.
Yeah.
I never considered that.
Yeah. So the aesthetic just isn't as impactful as the mechanical one, but it's still there. Now, it doesn't exist in all games, but it, like for Path of Exile, for example, which strictly speaking isn't a versus game or a competitive game in the fact that you play against other people for the most part, at least from what I know about how people judge worth in that game, the aesthetic isn't going to have as big of an impact because it doesn't. But in a game like League of Legends or any multiplayer game in which you can purchase an aesthetic difference and that it's class-based or champion-based or whatever, then you're going to have that dichotomy. So it's going to be there. And I think the methodology on how a loot box is presented, that's the thing that people have a problem with. Because any RNG mechanic of a game that you've purchased is the same thing as a loot box because it, in the end, is going to determine whether or not you win if you break it down fast enough, or hard enough. Like, it just is. Like, if you buy TF2, well, there are RNG mechanics of whether or not you crit, so your enjoyment's going to be affected by that, and now you're gambling with your enjoyment. The difference here is that I think where a loot box crosses the line is if you can make a market off of it, if you are able to solely through the use of that system advance through the game, or if it provides so much impact in the game that not doing it means that you slip below a 50% win rate. That's the difference.
Yeah, I don't think I agree with that at all. Like, you have to.
Like I said, hot take. A lot of people aren't going to like it.
Like, I agree. It definitely, aesthetics can absolutely affect the overall metrics of a game, the lifespan of any particular character or facet, sure. But it's not a direct impact that the consumer can measure. And that's what we talk about.
Well, that's methodology. That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah, but that's a difference that makes all the difference.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I think we're agreeing on the same thing. It's that my entire point is that most people that are gonna like, and when I say most people, I mean like when they make the approach of, I don't like loot boxes. Okay, why don't you? Most of the time, their reason is pretty flimsy, because any game that has any unlockable is going to have an aspect of RNG to it. It just is. And even if you get those things for free or buy them in real game money, you're still paying something. It's called time. But more people are okay with time than they are with money, even though there is a direct value put on time compared to money. So you're still spending money, you're just not doing it directly. And this goes back to that loss aversion thing.
I disagree, because I think time, in terms of the small purchases here, if you can do something that takes 10 hours for $1, that person is going to feel scorned as hell.
Right, with the methodology. That's the problem. Because that methodology is not to the appropriate ratio to make the time expenditure worth it compared to the person paying money. And those types of games that don't have a proper ratio will fail with their loot box system. But games that have a decent ratio will succeed. And they'll succeed pretty drastically. You see what I mean?
If WoW taught me one thing, time is money, friend.
I mean, it is. If you spend 3 hours playing a game to unlock something, there is, I don't know what this number is, to be clear, but I'm sure that there is an empirical number that can demonstrate there is this amount that the majority of people playing that game will accept the price of that time, and which another person could pay to bypass the time expenditure. Because there is an argument to be said that loot boxes that allow you to pay money to bypass time should be accepted, because there are people that don't have a lot of time to play the game. And there are plenty of people that would like the opportunity to, be able to experience this content or have access to this thing, but they don't have the time to spend because they're a single mother or something.
You know what I mean? Does happen.
In a PvE regard, I agree, but not when you're going against other players. then
Why?
it becomes unfair.
Why is that different?
Because if you are not dedicating the same amount of time, okay, look at it this way: a guy, practices his entire life for like a sport or something like that, and then he's finally good enough to get into the NFL. What if somebody just paid like $10 to get into the NFL without any effort involved? Yeah, he might suck, he might be worse, but he achieved the same dream that person had with zero effort. It's effort versus time, sort of.
Well, can we agree that in like MMOs, seeing whales get shitted on is hilarious?
To be completely honest, like with your assessment, I think you're comparing the wrong thing, because I'm not even talking about personal player skill, which is what you are talking about with that analogy. I am talking about time-based unlocks, such as if I play Dead by Daylight and I get the blood points to unlock the fucking thing to augment my character.
Well,
that's what I'm talking.
Advantage, though,
well, let's be clear. You see what I mean, though. There are different degrees of how this can impact, but the impact is there. Like, for example, if I play a lot of League of Legends, then I'm going to be able to produce the in-game currency so I can buy more champions, which gives me access to more to play with, right? Whereas in somebody who doesn't have a lot of time can use real money to buy those champions, and now they have access to a higher pool. Their ability to play the game is now different, but equalized to mine. Based off the time.
I actually don't mind. I'm more talking about things. Okay, I don't think money should be able to buy you something you would not be able to do solely with time. I think you should have to have.
That is the methodology that we're talking about. That's your line.
I would like to posit the opposite. What if somebody doesn't have the money to buy in, and they also don't have the time?
Then that's easy, Snake. They don't play the game. No, I'm serious. I know that sounds cruel, but that is an impossible statistic to really work with and still have all the other ones. And no game company is going to put that. They're not going to gamble on that horse.
No, I agree. Just to put it out there, I wanted to make sure that we address that.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. If you don't have time or money to play a game, well, you're not going to play it. Because the likelihood is that, why did you buy it?
Because I wanted to play with my friends.
Well, see, that's the thing, is you probably didn't buy it. See, that's the thing, is like that.
I'm on a free account.
The likelihood of that happening is so small because that prevents the actual acquisition of that thing. So it's
I don't think that's fair, because you can buy a $60 game, get it, and find out that it has pay to win or like pay to unlock, like pay to progress mechanics that were not mentioned before, and just not be able to do it and not compete.
Okay. Name 3 games that do that have an impact comparatively.
Final Fantasy 14. Oh my god, doing the main story quest, you will tear out your hair. I will pay money to skip the main story quest.
Yeah, the biggest example that I can think of that they have changed it because of the backlash is Battlefront 2.
That one was pretty rough.
Okay. So there are some examples. That's fair. My point is that while there might be some that might be able to push past that, ultimately my point is that not even that those things are bad or good, it's just that this argument I find to be pretty inane, because the problem is the methodology, not that it exists. That's where my hot take is that people that make the argument of like, oh, I'm okay with this but not okay with this, are okay with that. That's the difference. Your line in the sand is irrelevant, because that thing will exist, and it's meant to exist. So the morality of loot boxes is entirely based on the individual and the gamble that company makes. Because here's the fact of the matter, and I'll say it again: a lot of people don't like DLCs in the way that they're segmented, but you know why companies make them? Because people buy them. So, unfortunately, in the vast majority of the semi-consciousness of gamers, or whatever you want to call them, it's hypocritical. I hate that. Guess what? More people like it than you don't like it. And I dare say that if you're really honest with yourself, there's a price that you'd slip. It's all about methodology. But the biggest thing that I wanted to shut down was that people are okay with the aesthetic gain, because it's somehow different than the mechanical gain, that it's not as bad. And I am 100% against that completely. And I have empirical evidence. I have personal evidence of my own fucking game that will tell you that that's wrong. You know what? I can tell you the amount of shit that people will go through just to be a little bit different will blow your fucking mind. Even if they're not any stronger.
Yeah, that is true. That's also evident.
That's what
in
MMOs are
PlayStation 13.
based around, guys. That's what MMOs are based around is let's all play together, but I want to look different than you.
You know how many times people ask me to add cat girl race to SS13? It happens more than you think. It's actually wild.
Yeah. So anybody who thinks that loot boxes for aesthetics are somehow more morally high grounded than progression, I think there is not a real argument that can be said that mechanical gains, like true mechanical advantage gain through loot boxes is okay, because there's plenty of evidence against that. But progression, which is the most common loot box mechanic application, and aesthetic loot box gain, those two things morally are the same to me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. It's definitely the pay to win, like pay for a specific advantage, that I think people have a problem with more than the aesthetics. They draw the line between those two more so than a progression.
Yeah. Even though one could state, off the evidence given, that progression and aesthetic also grant mechanical advantage, although they're not directly impactful.
Yeah, and that direct impact is what people can see.
I just lost 90% of my respect for Arcadum. Why? Also, you must not have had that much of this conversation is the one that did it in for you. Damn, son.
Let's see.
You keep speaking for us? Look it up, man. I don't know what to tell you. Like, just fucking look it up.
I do want to see that experiment though. Have like a character in like a competitive shooter that's a slight advantage, but no skins, and then every other character has skins, just to see if he gets played less.
Well, yeah, and those see, League of Legends is an example of how aesthetics can affect the game. Man, go look. Like, there are sites where you can research this shit yourself. As that you go there and you can see that whenever a champion that was not used a lot, that had a low pick rate, gets a new skin, their pick rate increases, which means the chances for them getting a change, which means the chances for them for the meta to shift increases because they were picked. And you want to know what my source on that is? I literally talked to Dyrus about it. I would consider him an expert source. So, fucking, like, I don't know what to tell you.
I'd say the same, honestly.
I think the main determining factor in whether or not I consider that type of content to be morally. Go ahead.
No, just Dyrus, the Apex player. What?
Oh God. The thing that I use to determine whether or not I find it like morally acceptable is when I'm going against a player of some kind that has purchased these types of things. Can I tell? Like in League of Legends, if you were to purchase a champion and then be on the other team, I couldn't really tell that, right? Because, okay, so in that scenario, I don't mind. But if there's like an exclusive golden gun or something like that I could never actually get without buying it, then I think that becomes sort of a different scenario.
Even if that was only aesthetic?
No, I'm talking about one that actually has like an inherent advantage, like it does slightly more damage or something.
Right, which that would be a problem. I think everybody's in agreement with that, but would you have a problem with it if it was purely aesthetic?
No, I wouldn't.
Man, and that's so wild to me. You know, it really is.
I'm not trying to like overanalyze.
No. I get you. No, it's that kind of stuff's wild to me because, like, as a game developer myself, and as talking, like, you want to know the reason why people play Wizards? Like, here, let me take you guys on a wild journey here. All right.
Is it Greece?
Before I started streaming, I did surveys on why players chose classes. And you want to know why people played casters more than martial characters more often than not by about 40%?
Is it because they want to look cool?
Because 1,000 subclasses.
Because they were cooler looking.
They are, though.
And let me tell you something else.
Hats and
here's the other thing.
Look at them Grimoire. Oh, it's huge.
Do you want to know why more people play the like elves and humans? Because it's easier to find art for them. Surveys have said that. So believe me when I tell you,
Min-max art.
aesthetic fucking matters, dude. Like, it matters more than the credit you're giving it to. They will change the gamescape because of aestheticism. So that's just the way that it is, man. And for anybody that's like, that's not true, Arcadum, I'm like, look, you could say that my anecdotal quotations evidence isn't enough, but I'm an expert in my field. I've done the surveys on it. I probably have what I would consider the most that a single person could get with the resources at hand. So fucking deal with it. I don't know what to tell you, man.
I'm gonna go with Arcadum.
That's just your opinion, Arcadum. It's like, okay, at what point does my my opinion get valued enough that people take it seriously? You know what I mean? It's like, what the fuck? That's such a silly thing to say. You wouldn't say that shit to a doctor, would you?
I don't think it ever boils down to, well, it might.
Oh, I guess you could, because of the second opinion thing on doctors. I'm probably just wrong about that. I don't know. It's just, look, I'm not mad at anybody specifically. It's just that so many times I'll sit there and explain something that I've researched and put the time and effort into doing for my craft, and somebody will just say, that's anecdotal evidence, it doesn't count. And I'm like, go fuck yourself, dude. It's okay if you don't agree with it, but don't fucking dismiss what I've said because it's just one person. Like, anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. Continue, Snake. Sorry.
I think there's a lot of lumping things together here. Like, I think it's absolutely fair to say that these things, like aesthetics, do matter in a game and how it's perceived, but whether it's for the consumer, it's what it affects and what they can see. And that's what people are referring to when they say that they don't like X, Y, or Z, or when they say that it's not true, because they're talking about and thinking about what they can see. You're talking about things they can't. So of course you're not gonna, it's not what people think about. So yeah, of course you're gonna receive.
Oh, it's both, to be clear. I asked about games that were purely at the table in which no tokens were used. I asked for people that in games that I played with. I went to tabletop stores and I asked about other people's games there. I took this survey seriously. I didn't literally only pull from my own pool of players because obviously they're going to have a biased opinion. I tried to source it out as much as I possibly could as one human with the resources that I had because I wanted to know the answer to that. Why do you play a fighter over a rogue? Why do you play a wizard over a fighter? I wanted to know why people did that because I wanted to be better at my craft.
Cause spellcasting's scary.
I just want to cast a wish, bro.
Okay, those are still things that people can see, though.
What do you mean?
People can still visualize their characters, tokens, maps, or not. Like, they can see all of that. That's kind of like they have a very keen idea of what their character looks like and how they behave, probably more so than any token or map can really grant them.
Yeah. I'm sorry, that was somebody in chat was like, I play a fighter over a rogue because I want to live. That's hilarious. Because I want to live. That's funny.
But have you seen Bellanova?
I feel like rogues can live better than fighters sometimes, depending on the type of enemy.
In 5th edition, rogues are hard to pin down, so they'll probably live longer than a fighter would. But then again, fighters will just kill the fucking thing because they'll go twice with advantage and kick the shit out of it. Samurai damage output's pretty nutty in a burst. But anyway, my whole thing is that, back to the original point of what is the morality behind loot boxes, I think that there is certainly a point in which it becomes immoral to use them. I think it's based off of the methodology, and that line is a lot longer. That line is a lot further down than most people would admit, I think. Because if you love a game enough, you'll be more willing to pay for it. It's just the way that it is.
Yeah, I think that. Go ahead.
Nah, go ahead.
I whether or not people admit that, yeah, I think that makes sense. People want to support games that they like.
Yeah. And they'll do it.
How would you recommend that is, it's, how do we make it so they're seen as less of how they're currently seen?
I think that's already happening. I think that as more and more games adopt loot boxing, it's going to become less and less of a problem. It only becomes a problem when somebody tries to push the envelope, which causes a controversy, which if that company and game survives that controversy, then that becomes the norm. because ultimately video games and the people that make them are trying to make money, right? They're trying to be successful. So when somebody takes a gamble on a concept and it works, people will use that concept because it worked, just the way it is. So the more and more people use loot boxes, they'll try to find which loot box system has produced the most success with the least controversy, or at least the least true backlash, I should say. And then they're going to use that because that's how the market works. And it's not the companies that decide that, it's the people it's the consumer. It's all of you.
It's reputation.
Yeah.
Like, that's the key.
Yeah, reputation, yeah.
Okay, boil it down to a very simple thing, all of you. Do you think they are good or bad?
I think they're good.
Any kind of content lock for me has always been a negative.
I think that loot boxes are good because I don't think that you can make a true game that's AAA now without having a consistent revenue stream past the initial purchase point.
How do they do it up until this point then?
The games were smaller.
Games were smaller, yeah.
Bigger than they required less production to produce?
Yeah, correct.
And required less time, less money, less effort.
Yep. But the bigger the games get, the better the technology, the more you can do with it, and therefore the more, I guess you could call it, expectation is to be put on them, and therefore they're going to do that because people are going to expect it, and therefore, it's going to take more.
Yeah, another thing is that a lot of games these days, I don't want to say most, a lot of games these days are multiplayer. Those require server upkeep.
Yep.
And development pack, it requires so much more effort to keep a game current and fun for the player base than it ever did back then.
God, I hope there's a day where peer-to-peer is just obsolete.
What do you mean?
Just peer-to-peer, like networking and stuff like that in games like that. I know it's a cheap, you don't have to have a dedicated server and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah.
It's cheap, but it affects the gameplay so much for me. When you play a game for so long, you can start, feeling when it's lag that's killing you more than anything.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can play DVD, even though it's not true. Yeah.
I know, but I mean, there's other games that do that too.
Yeah.
Even with, like I saw something in chat, even with games that have peer-to-peer, you still have the interface there's a server involved.
Yeah, like Dark Souls stuff. PvP is a perfect example.
Yeah.
Like it's peer-to-peer, but there's still a server that matches you to other people.
Yeah, so saying that it doesn't exist with peer-to-peer is, that's just not true. It still requires upkeep.
So actually, speaking of increased upkeep and stuff, what do you guys think about the new default price for games this gen? $10, higher than the rest.
I think it's just inflation.
You think it's just standard economy, overall universal inflation?
Yeah, I think so.
I don't.
Well, at least
I don't think it's inflated that much.
Well, at least for entertainment, I should say. People are willing to pay more for entertainment now, especially this year, because all the other avenues of I guess you could call it production are being shut down. Are we talking about video games or just in general?
I'm talking about specifically PS5 games costing $79.99 kind of thing.
Oh, that
Jesus Christ!
Oh, that's purely taking over the fact that there's not enough of them to go around.
The games? I'm talking about the games, not the console.
No. That's a part of it. You charge that much for the game because people want something that. Look, I could go into this, but the fact is that people are going to want to pay. People are willing to pay more for something that less people have.
That's not true these days with digital sales.
That's what I'm saying. People
Really?
would prefer digital over disc-based. Why would you want it other than having an instruction book
all right.
Nice,
well,
if that's experience.
If that's not true, then why not? Why wouldn't they be $80? What is the let's discuss that in that case. What's the downside of making it $80? Do you think it's going to cause people to not buy it?
Yes.
I'm asking why they did it to begin with. Is it just simply, hey, we want more money?
Well, yeah.
I mean, obviously, yeah, but
yeah.
I guess that was obviously, yes, their business. They want more money, but I feel like that's a fairly steep hike compared to the past God, I can't even remember the past 4 or 5 gens of consoles. It's been roughly the same price, right? For games. I feel like that hasn't changed in a long time.
I would say it was 60, what, PS3 era? Maybe late PS2 era. I remember them being 50 in PS2 era.
Okay, so either way, though, it has been quite some time.
Yeah.
Yeah, but didn't people freak out when they went to 62?
Yeah, they did.
Yeah.
Probably.
Did it cause anything in the long run? I don't think so.
Well, see, I'm just saying, what is the... What determines whether or not a price hike is acceptable? Because why not go to 90? Why not go to 100? Like, how do they determine that?
Gamble.
Just
No, that's
They
no,
put
that's
the price
literally
out there.
that's
If the people
literally
buy
what it is.
They're gonna stick with it.
Yeah, that's what it is. They're going to take a shot, they'll sell it, and if they get enough sales, they'll keep doing it. And then other people will follow that person. And then before you know it, it's no longer, wow, that's higher than usual. It becomes the norm.
Yeah, that's how 60 happened.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened.
I don't mean to be dismissive of people's like statements, but that's why they're doing it. Will it be successful? Who knows? We'll see.
See, that's the thing is, I feel like it can't fail because people still want entertainment. And if you go, well, you know,
And that's what I'm
it's
talking
$10
about.
more.
That's
I
why,
can live with that.
Yeah, that's why when I said that people want something that not a lot of people have, that's going to drive that because people want it. It's like, I think the reason that they took the $80 gamble on that is because there isn't a lot of PS5s going around, right? And that therefore raises. It's like, why is gold valuable, or silver, or anything else that's
because
valuable?
it's a good conductor.
Well, okay. Let me be clear. Why is anything that is rare valuable? Because it's rare.
See, I think that would apply to the console itself, but not the games, which are
Well, you
mostly
can't play the
digital at this
games
point.
without the console.
Right, but having a higher price on the game is irrelevant to the console itself, which is the actual rare part.
Which is exactly my point. Is that
well, then we're agreeing.
that's why you can raise the price is because you're not taking any extra risk. The person already bought the PS5, which
Right,
is
and they'd have nothing to play.
Yeah,
So if every
yeah.
price is the same, then what are you
exactly,
going to do? Just have a console that has nothing?
Exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
I will.
No.
I don't think it's a universal price hike. I think it's only first party games that are like that premium price nowadays, or at least for.
Is that true?
I think so. I know they said that they were going to do that. I don't know how many third party devs followed suit. But when they announced the price increase, it was Sony saying that they were going to do it. And I saw
Checking
that.
all the games on Best Buy, and they're all the same price.
If
I don't know
it's
if they're all
$10
Sony
more,
games.
it better come with the DLC that they're gonna try to sell me later. That's all I'm saying.
That's the thing, though. It doesn't have to because that's the new norm.
Ugh.
And then, I don't know. I guess this is just the time that they tried it. I'm surprised they haven't tried it in the past couple years, but
Probably because it's the first time the tech. Well, I don't want to say the first time, but this is probably the technology has advanced sufficiently enough that they probably have to. That's another thing too. This may not be a greed thing. Well, but it probably is a little greed, but but it may be because the technology requires more production value in order to make the game in this advanced
see, is that
setting.
true? What is the? It's like that law about technology, like the size of nanochips shrinks every 7 years or something like that. There's some law about that, but the price doesn't necessarily change because the times change with it. So is that true?
I mean, I don't know. Look, I'm not a business major or
That's
anything.
an interesting thing to think about.
I'm only going off what I can see, and what I can see is that I don't have any inclination that there's some guy rubbing his hands together going, "Oh, let's raise the prices to 80 because we want more money." People want more money because they want to be more successful, and money is power, and that's how you do that. But
I mean, it could also be where the guy's just like saying, well, I mean, people are going to buy the video games anyway. Let's just squeeze them for every dollar they got.
well, yeah,
And
because
see if it fails or not.
it's like the guy that during a time of famine or during a time of plenty saves the food so he can sell it during famine to make more money.
Ooh, hate
know?
those guys.
Yeah, but that's what the market is.
Scalpers.
That's
Ew.
Oh, dude, I can rant about that shit all day.
Dude, buy low,
Oh.
sell high, man. That's the basis of capitalism, you know?
Fuck capitalism, then. God, I hate scalpers so much. They're the reason I have a
Comrade.
PS5.
Fuck
'em.
capitalism.
They're all buying PS5s with bots, and then they brag about it on Twitter like, oh, God, I want to fucking punch them on the face. Sorry, continue.
Well, no, that sucks because I want a PS5 too, my dude. It's just,
Ugh.
you know, look, I'm not defending these people. It seems that Chad thinks I'm defending these people from what I'm seeing. I'm not. I'm just saying it's reality. It exists. Our whole fucking system is based off of that. We play a game with money and people lose and people win, and when you win more, and when you lose more. The whole point is that we don't reset it to 0 so that people can't ever have a chance to win again.
What drives a person to be so? Because I would consider scalping to just be purely evil, and that's
Why?
just like an evil.
It's not
Why?
evil.
Yeah, why is that evil?
It's a hustle, my dude.
Why is that evil?
Yeah.
Because you are preying on people's desperation for something that they want and extorting more money out of them because of it.
Okay, so you would be okay if people weren't desperate.
If it wasn't a thing in demand, then they wouldn't be scalping it to begin with. They only do it things.
So at what point does demand become desperation to you?
I don't think it's a direct line like that.
I think that it is, and I think that making the argument that it isn't that's pretty flimsy. Because the difference between somebody being desperate to have something is like, well, okay, anything that you want, the person selling it gets to set the price. And then whether or not you buy it determines if that price stays, as far as I know about economics. So if somebody sets the price and people pay it, then why would they lower the price?
So you're saying that... All right, are you saying that scalping is morally acceptable then?
I'm questioning why you think it's morally questionable. I'm not saying whether or not it's morally questionable, because I think that scalping a PS5 is not morally wrong, but doing that with medicine would be. There's my difference.
It's preying on desperation, and you can say, okay, you don't need a PS5, but there's some kid on Christmas that's really, really gonna want that, and it is a form of preying on desperation, because that kid is, he doesn't have to worry about health insurance and all that kind of stuff. To him, that's the equivalent, because that's all his world is. So it's still in some way preying on a form of desperation. And I don't see how you could ever justify that morally. Legally, whatever, but morally.
I mean, okay, let me ask you this. Do you think it would be... Okay, now this is going to be hard for you to answer, I'm sure, but do you think it would be more moral for me to demand that people pay me to play my games that I'm streaming? Like, if I asked... let me ask. If I asked Heart of Tear to start paying me to play in the game, would you consider that morally wrong?
Shit, you be getting $7 a week, my dude.
No, I don't think I would consider that morally wrong. Why? Because you're providing us a service.
Okay, so it's the difference is service versus product. Let me put it to you this way: if I said, "Hey guys, I'm gonna need $200 from each group in order to keep playing, or else I just won't run it anymore because I know that you will pay it," is that morally wrong?
I think that's a false comparison, though.
I don't think it is. That's because I have something you want that you desperately want to play.
Okay, here's
you know what I mean?
Thing with that. Here's why that's a false
divided
comparison.
by 5. What is that?
You have something that you created yourself, so you can put the price on that product. If there's a product out there that someone else purchases a bunch of and then resells, they create the desperation. They don't create the product.
So your point is that they... Well, that's okay. Well, let me ask you this then. If that's the problem, then do you not like the stock market?
No, not really.
Do you consider the stock market morally wrong?
Morally wrong? No. I think
it's hard, isn't it? Yeah.
Play the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire theme while we're thinking about that.
I think it would be morally wrong for the same reasons that capitalism in general is kind of a shit show.
Yeah, and look, and people really like to hate me during these council meetings because I'm just the one that is willing to go where the devil is and to understand why it's there, because I've had to have the same, like, all these discussions we've had, chat room, I've had in my mind. You want to know the reason why I don't charge people for that I stream my games with? Is because I don't think that I deserve it. That's why I don't do it. And then later I decided, you know what? I think it's actually better that I don't, because it's more likely that those people will play with me, and therefore the exposure I get is actually worth more than what I would charge reasonably. And I would say that was a good business practice, but I didn't go into it with that. I went into it because I didn't think I deserved it. But I know every single one of you would tell me that I am, right? Yeah.
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 So that's the thing. So, and I use my own personal experience because that's really all I have to go off. I'm by no means a businessman. It's just that to me, somebody who scalps is taking advantage of a market trend, and the only difference between them and somebody else, I suppose, taking advantage of the stock market, is that they themselves, by their direct use, are creating that desperation. Now, I do agree with you on that, Snake. But my problem of whether or not it is morally wrong comes down to the fact that that desperation is not a required service. Like, they're not doing it with medicine or water or food. They're doing it off of entertainment. That, by the way, is a temporary state, because you will get a PS5. You just won't get it now. See what I mean? That's the difference. That's why I don't consider it morally wrong. Is it an asshole move? Yeah, but they're not evil for doing that.
Okay, what about
evil for gloating about it?
I'm saying the thing is, they're not just being an opportunistic, capitalist American. The people that are doing this are cheating. They have bots that buy up everything instantly within 1 second, so no one else can have it, making it so that the only place you can currently get it is from them, making them basically the sole suppliers, which I think is, I don't know how you can defend that.
I think that's more of a, I don't know, a mindset kind of thing.
That's a, man, okay. I will agree with you on this. How about this? Let me get some common ground here. People that do that to make money, I don't think that's the wrong thing, because somebody made that program. There you go. And they're not doing anything illegal, so fuck.
Isn't scalping illegal?
Is it? Like, is what they're doing illegal? Because I think that if that's the case, then they would probably be prosecuted, right? Oh, let me look this up.
I actually don't know, because I know, like, scalping tickets in some places 100% illegal.
Well, yeah, scalping tickets. Okay, let's look up scalping legality.
If memory serves, it's completely dependent on the product.
The offense of scalping is most commonly classified as a misdemeanor, with penalties ranging from fines or up to 1 year in jail. In Florida, until 2006, ticket scalping was illegal, and now the laws have been changed. Wait, it's not illegal anymore. Hold on.
Bro, you're just butthurt. You're not using, like, your best advantage here, and they are, man. You're just butthurt. Come on.
Shut up.
Come on, dude. Just get some bots, bro.
According to what I'm seeing on Google, its legality is state-based. Huh. Okay, that's not really helpful.
Even so, I don't really think legality matters. Legality does not define morality.
Oh, I don't think it does either. But, well, I think to a certain extent it can, but no, it shouldn't.
Correlation.
There's correlation. Yeah.
There's not always correlation, and I don't think there is in this case.
And I would say that's true. I mean, look, for me to consider somebody evil, they would have to be, like, I'm talking like real evil, not like.
I guess we're arguing semantics over the shades of evil. Obviously, a child rapist is going to be way worse than a scalper.
I have no regard for humanity.
I think calling somebody morally bankrupt because they're taking advantage of a market desperation to make money off of a PS5, I think that's coming from a place of bias for you, Scott, because you want a PS5 really bad.
Fucking
you know what I mean? But you know what? I'll come out to common ground and I'll tell you what I actually think, and I'll stop being devil's advocate. I think it's fucked up. I think ultimately, I think people are overreacting to it because it's a temporary thing. But yeah, I think it's fucked up. Do I think it's morally bankrupt? No. Do I think it's right? No. Do you think
it's going to happen for the PS6?
I think both of those things can exist.
Yes.
I think something can be fucked up, but not morally bankrupt. I think both those things can exist.
All right. Well, the thing is, this is also a unique scenario because, this is never, I mean, it's happened to some extent, but it's so prevalent now because of the whole pandemic and the only online orders, which means the bots are going to basically dominate it because it's not like, a bot can't go buy something in a store.
Yeah,
this is,
honestly,
a temporary thing.
Absolutely, dude. I think the pandemic has a pretty big impact because I think I've gotten more successful because of it, and I hate that feeling.
Yeah.
People are gonna stay home. What are they gonna watch?
D&D. Yeah. Does that make me morally bankrupt because I'm benefiting from a pandemic? I mean,
you'd be doing D&D regardless, though.
You know what I mean? I would be doing the same thing anyway. But it's like I still feel that. I feel awful about it.
See, that would be like if you, I think a better comparison to that would be not just if you charging for your games. It would be as if, say, you bought Critical Role and now no one can watch it unless they pay you a certain amount of money.
I guess that's true. I guess it's not completely compared. You see that? I got that guilt in the back of my head. It's coming up.
Yeah, I get you.
And that's kind of where I am on that. I don't know. See, the weird thing about Twitch is it's a thank you economy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, fucking.
Man, I never thought of it that way, but you're right.
It really is. Especially with what I'm doing. Jesus Christ, it's a very big thank you economy, right? And it's like, man, what am I doing? Like, cause, like I could Critical Role has their VODs behind subscribers, right?
Yep.
So they have a paywall. And, I remember when I talked with Devin about putting the paywall, because he was just like, fucking, the lawful evil in me is telling you to do it. But he's like, I don't think you should for what you're actually doing, And, and I thought about it, and I ended up not doing it because ultimately I hope people don't think I'm selfish. I don't want to put my VODs behind a paywall because I enjoy watching people talk about it too much. Like talking about what happened in the game, and I would have less of that if I put it behind a paywall. So I don't do that.
That doesn't make you bad at all. That is you taking pride in your own work.
Yeah.
Pride, the sin of pride,
the sin of pride. Yeah.
Whew.
But
got a little heated.
Well, I like talking
that was good
about
shit.
Well, yeah,
No,
like people were like, I can't believe Arcadum's hot takes. I gotta leave. He can't have a conversation. Like, bro. Somebody has to be the bad guy, and I can.
Otherwise, we're all just gonna be like,
yeah, I agree. We do smell nice, Like, oh, fuck that, dude. Like, I have the ability to entertain a thought or a viewpoint without accepting it, and so I do that. You have to be objective if you're gonna have a conversation. You have to be. What were you saying, Snake? I cut you off.
I've never understood this aversion to selfishness. Everybody's selfish.
Yeah, but scalpers are evil.
I mean,
why are so many people selfish in the world?
Sorry, that was a little more tart than I meant for it to be.
Simple question. Well, why are so many people selfish?
Because fuck you, I'm American.
Because we're people. Like, people have wants and needs. Like, selfishness, I think there are degrees of it. I think there are degrees that go too far, but selfishness in general is not an objectively bad thing. Like, you have to be to survive.
Pretty sure it's just an
self-preservation thing.
Yeah.
It's in our chimpanzee brains, dude. You ever seen that one where one gets a grape and the other one gets like a piece of, like, I don't know, cactus fruit or something? He gets so jealous over the grape.
He's like, fuck you, man. That's my grape.
Bro, I wanted some grape, not this bullshit.
I'll tell you where my aversion to it comes, Snake. Because I know the line between the line for me to cross into obnoxious arrogance is very, very thin for me because of my personality type. And there are people that already think that I'm an arrogant asshole. And I really don't want to seem that way. I don't want to be that person. So anytime I do anything even close to being selfish, I'm averse to it. That's why I give to charities, and I do so anonymously for the most part. There are plenty of people in chat who I saw their GoFundMes, and I've thrown money at it without even thinking about it. I try to do as much good that I can without talking about it, because I want to not be selfish, because it would be poisonous to someone like me, I think. I don't know.
I have a philosophical question about selfishness. Is selfishness simply caring about yourself primarily, or does it have to have the caveat of having a negative effect on somebody else?
I'll let you guys discuss that while I get my food.
I don't think so. I think you can be selfish just, looking out for yourself.
So that means selfish is not inherently a bad thing.
Yeah.
I don't think so necessarily, yeah. I think you can be too what's the opposite of being selfish? Selfless.
Selfless.
Yeah, I think you could do that and it'd be a detriment to yourself.
You can, that's true. I know people that give more money than they have to other people. See, like, God, how many times have you read stories about, like, people on Twitch, like, receiving $10,000 donations, and then, like, a week later, they're like, hey, bro, I kind of need that back. I don't actually have any money.
Right, yeah.
So, yeah, I kind of get that.
Or just, like, children of parents who just, always fall back on mom and dad kind of thing. It's, instead of trying to solve the problem themselves, they know they can rely on that. I think that's kind of selfish.
Yeah. So it's interesting. Like, usually selfishness has such a negative connotation, but from what it seems like, is there's not necessarily any negative effects of selfishness at all.
Well,
I mean, there can be, but
yeah, there's always a line, and it's people focus on crossing that line so much that they disregard the entire thing.
yeah, I guess that's true. But then, there's certain scenarios where if we're going from an evolutionary standpoint, then selfishness arises from self-preservation. But then as soon as it goes to, well, you have a child, now you have to care about that more than yourself. But again, isn't actually that evolution because you're trying to propagate your line? So is that actually have like a basis in like, the instinct?
I mean, it very well can. Like it, I don't know. Humans are, to me, so well beyond like the simplification of biology that it's to me irrelevant at this point. Because like we have money, we have full blown, we have the internet, we have so much arbitrary and abstract shit that boiling it down, distilling it down to biology to me is fruitless. And
you're saying
wasteful.
it's evolved past the simplicity of instinct and all that stuff.
Yeah, we have VR cat girls, correct?
How do you guys feel about I saw Denso brought it up. How do you feel about utilitarianism?
What's that?
It's when you make decisions based off of what will cause the greatest amount of good for everybody.
I think that's...
Is that like being pragmatic?
I remember I took a whole class and I thought this was interesting because there were actually negatives to it. We were just asking, how do you feel about utilitarianism?
In regards to what?
Just life. That's your outlook on life.
The greater good.
Well, I think the problem with utilitarianism is that it's easily corrupted.
By people influencing what they think is good?
Yeah, because what is good and what is being determined as good by the majority can be horrifying.
So you would say that that's the chief weakness to it?
Yeah. Because in an ideal world, yeah, then it would work out. But we don't live in an ideal world. It's just like people who argue for pacifism. It's like, we should just not go to war, man. And I'm like, yeah, that would be an ideal world where soldiers wouldn't need to exist. Well, guess what? We're not in that world. So,
in order for something like that to even be effective in, like, as written on paper, everybody would have to share the same ideal. Like, everybody would have to be on the same wavelength mentally, and that's just
the same moral compass too.
Yeah, like it's a non-starter even on paper.
And resources
let alone in
would have
practice.
to be, and resources would have to be even too,
Yeah,
to some degree. Yeah.
How do we become a hive mind?
Play D&D. Everybody just play D&D.
Summer's muzzle.
That's true, but I don't know, man.
Join us.
I just think that I think utilitarianism is just like, I don't know. I think it's just
too fantasy land.
It's too easily corrupted. It just is. Because even if you achieved it, that would only last for as long as those leaders would live. Those in power would eventually die. Like this all comes down to the to what, like, how beneficial, like how benevolent dictatorships work. Like, like in Rome or and I use the word benevolent kind of loosely here, but in those types of places where a supreme leader who is a good person does good things for the people for the most part to a net positive. Well, that type of thing can only exist for as long as that person is good. And one truth that I have kind of seen is that, idle hands, breed some, evil and
For
all
the
that
devil's
shit.
playthings.
Yeah, exactly. I think that old idiom is a real thing. Is that the more and more somebody has plenty, the less and less they value it, I guess, to a certain degree. But I don't think that's also not a universal, inescapable truth either. I don't know. I'm kind of on the fence about that one, because I've met plenty of rich people, like with rich kids who I was friends with who weren't assholes, and I've met plenty of them that were. And I've also met plenty of kids who were poor who were assholes because they were poor or because they were just going to be that way no matter what. So it's like
everybody's got their assholes.
I don't think somebody's origins dictates who they are. I think that it affects it. I think you can rise above it and all that kind of stuff because, I mean, look at me. I came from a place that was awful, that taught hate and, didn't teach understanding and religious zealotry and all kinds of crazy shit. The shit that I have seen when I was a kid fucked me up. But you know what I did? I decided not to be affected by it, and I tried to become a good person. So, and I don't know how good I'm doing, but I'm trying my best. So, it's one of those things.
You think it'd drive you crazy if you actually had a stat you could look up at how good you're doing at being good? Oh, I'm not being good enough. I need to be better.
I think if that actually existed, we might be on the track of something. But in order for that to exist, it'd have to be a system that everybody could agree on.
Oh no, yeah, just
that's
for
a
that
scary
reason,
concept.
it would not work.
Yeah, for that reason, it wouldn't work. Exactly. Yeah.
No, thank you.
Yeah.
You guys ever see the show The Good Place?
Yep. That's a great show because it tackles that.
It tackles that whole concept, yeah.
Yeah, I love that show because of that concept. But, yeah. I don't know, man. I don't want to sit here and say that capitalism is the best form of government.
What do you think is?
I don't think we found it yet.
Barbarianism.
I don't think there is a best form of government. There is a best form of government for people with similar or with like a certain kind of mindset. I think it's all.
So it depends on the citizens of that nation.
Yeah.
I think that we haven't found it yet because as technology progresses, certain forms of government become possible. And therefore there may be a form of government that we have yet to reach the technology prerequisite of. Or at least in that evolution of it. But, look, I'm not going to pretend that... Like, you know what? The show The Orville actually kind of tackles this. Because in The Orville, there's no such thing as money because of matter replication, right? You can just conjure anything you want. So everybody's form of currency is reputation. So then your accomplishments matter more than the money that you have. It's literally what you've done. And I thought that was an interesting aspect.
There's a series, a book series, a television show, or rather a Netflix show, and a role-playing game, like a tabletop role-playing game. Altered Carbon and Eclipse Phase is the name of the game.
I love Altered Carbon.
Yeah, it has a similar system where you there does exist currency, but there's also a form of currency that is reputation. And the way that typically works is your reputation is defined by the people around you. So it's based on what you do, but in a certain light. Like it's how the people view what you did. So it's not a one for one, like you do this and your rep goes up. People have to curate it.
There's also the fact that some accomplishments aren't good. It's like shit like that. But who knows? Maybe we'll get there.
I have a
Not my lifetime.
interesting question about our government in particular. So the Constitution is the basis of all of our laws and how the government's run and all that stuff. But is there a point where how long ago a nation's originating document was written? Is there a point where it becomes outdated? I know there are amendments and stuff like that, but is there a point where it's okay to say that like you don't think that the founding document is is accurate anymore?
It really depends on the values of that society. Like we're supposed to have a living document, so that point is at conception.
Yeah.
At least it's supposed to be, but it's not.
Yeah.
In practice.
Yeah.
There's also something to be said with that. I think the archaic loss of translation also matters because how it was written versus how it'll be read now will be different for how it will be read 200 years from now because the language would have changed. and the meaning of words will have changed.
And the beliefs of people will change.
So I think there's that.
Mhm.
I think, look, I don't get political in this stream for a very good reason, because I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings. But regardless of whether or not you agree with the government that we have, or America, I signed up to fight for it, to join my brothers and sisters in arms in order to be a part of it. I do love the country I'm in. But I'm also not blindly in love with it. I can see lots of its problems, and I want to do what I can to defend it. And I don't know if it'll ever fix some of the problems that we have, but I have to remain hopeful that it will. So,
Is your mindset that you? I help me understand the soldier mindset. Is it that you fight to defend your country, or what the country represents?
well, I joined the military for the following reasons. Number one, absolute desperation. I grew up in an area where I was unable to get a good education, in a home life where I was taught hate, and I wasn't given good permanency, and I wasn't taught the value of hard work or anything like that. I was shown that lying and cheating and stealing and all these things were more valuable and more effective in order to live a life, even though I know now that they weren't, but that's what I knew at the time. I joined it because I did not want to do that. And it was the easiest and most open way for me to escape that life. But what I got in exchange for that desperate move was I was taught to be an adult. I was taught the value of hard work. I was taught about honor, integrity. I was taught all these things that I was never taught growing up. And the military and its lessons were reflections of what I believe our government and what the people that live here are supposed to represent. Maybe not what they actually do, but at least what they're supposed to.
Okay.
And that is what I was willing to sign my name to, a document that said that I could be imprisoned for my incompetence and killed for my cowardice. That's why I was okay with signing that. And now I ended up leaving the military because, unfortunately, I was given an office job, and all I saw was office politics, and it really disillusioned my romanticized view of it. And I realized that at the end of the day, people are fucking people. But there's always been a little bit of that light inside of me, that I can believe that we can do something truly great, and that we can have happiness for people that don't have it. So, and I have.
Well, that's good.
believe in
I
that.
think that's, I think that's how it should be. You should fight for, what it should represent, and even if you disagree with what's going on currently, you're still fighting for the ideals that like the country was built on.
Yeah, I mean,
which I think is the most
look,
important part.
I'm not going to pretend for a second that there aren't huge problems that we have. We have plenty of them. Like, we have problems with racism, sexism, fucking how the poor are treated, how our veterans are treated. There's a reason I don't get political, because if we start talking about how our veterans are treated, I'm going to lose my fucking mind in here. The fact that we have people dying from lost paperwork that served in Vietnam, that served... Oh boy, it gets my fucking blood up, man. But
I mean, if you want to rant, go for it, because we're not going to disagree. I can tell you that.
well, I also don't want to do that because it's not really a conversation. It's, look, regardless how you feel about the military or the country that we live in, people that fought in actual combat and survived, that came home, and that are now dying because of lost paperwork, because our system hasn't been updated to to this current century, is absolutely unforgivable. Some of those people I knew too. So, that's where I stand on that. And I was lucky. I was never sent to go fight in combat. I never left Oklahoma, but that doesn't mean it didn't mean anything to me.
Yeah, I got you.
Anyway.
Ooh, lad.
Oh, shit. Speaking of which, Draxonel in chat was my suite mate.
Oh, really?
Yeah. He was with me at Tinker Air Force Base. He lived in the room adjacent to mine. We shared a kitchen.
Nice.
It's pretty sick.
Did you talk to him about D&D at all?
Oh, yeah.
Does he know secrets?
Yeah, I ran for him.
Okay.
I ran
I'm gonna add him to friends.
I ran him for everybody in in the dorms. We lived in the security forces dorm, so there was always like a party or some weird shit going on. But anyway. So, I don't know what the best form of government is. Snake said it probably doesn't exist, but I have to believe in the one that I have in front of me because what else am I going to do? You know, like what's my other option? To completely change the entirety of the government and how it functions? Sure, I could do that if I believed I had the ability, but I don't. All I do is run D&D, and I just try to make the world a better place by telling good stories that make people smile. That's the best I can do.
Nodders.
Thanks for making me smile, dude.
So. Also, Snake is awesome. Look at him.
You're awesome.
Now they're
Look at that
both
positivity.
blushing.
Are you eating Chick-fil-A?
At this time of night,
Oh, shit. No,
Wait,
it's
no.
Wendy's. My bad.
centralized in your room.
Chick-fil-A's a Monday food. I forgot.
I didn't realize you guys could hear me. I'm sorry.
No, I couldn't. I just want to know what you want.
I was getting
You're good.
tingles.
That was Wednesday. I ordered Wendy's.
All right, fair. You get spicy chicken?
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
You know,
I do.
I was just thinking to myself of, we talk a lot about being selfish, but what about being selfless?
Yeah, we talked about that a little bit while you were gone, how that can be a net negative as well. Like being selfish or selfless doesn't inherently mean good or bad.
Yeah, but which one do you think that people are more likely to do, and how more often? I think people are less likely to be selfless.
Of course. I mean, that's just, human survival instinct. Care about yourself first.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think it goes any deeper than that. It's just easier to do because that's just what comes naturally to people.
Here's something that I found out. I think that, and this is my own personal, what happened to me. I helped people more the more money I made.
Yeah,
And
I mean, that makes sense.
And something that always really got to me is why that is.
Because your
Money equals power.
necessities were met and you had excess.
Well, it's also money is power, and power lets you do things, and you can do things like help people with it.
Right.
Yeah. Anything else you guys want to go over?
No, that was some good heated shit.
That's good
That's
stuff.
a gross sentence, but yeah.
Some good heated.
I'm gonna go take a good heated shit in a second.
All right.
Fuck.
Well, good stuff. Let's check to see if we've got any questions, because something came up all of a sudden, and I got to get going here pretty soon. But let's see. All right, we got some questions here.
Warm, wet.
Ew.
Warm, wet. Let's see, since Verum boss fights are reaching the point where they take multiple sessions to conclude, as players, what do you do to keep morale high when things look dire? Also, in your opinion, what aspect of a boss fight can demoralize a player the most? Insane damage, lots of CC, huge health. I guess this is a question for you three.
Low rolls.
Yeah, just bad luck, I think, more than anything.
Yeah, anything that's truly out of our hands. But I don't really necessarily get demoralized. Like we said earlier, if I die in the campaign, I'm not gonna totally be sad. That's just how the history's written.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Like, I don't. I'm not gonna say I don't care if we die, but you know, I wouldn't be like super heartbroken if the story, you know, went in that direction, and that's totally fine. But if it's because we rolled 30 ones in a row, I'm gonna be a little salty. Yeah.
Yeah. I've had discussions with my girlfriend where I'm like, you know, Mork might die in this fight, and she's like, no, he does not die. And I'm like, it's out of my control. What can, there's nothing I can do.
Is she a Mork simp? What the?
Absolutely.
Nice.
Sick.
I was trying to think of like the most demoralizing part for me in any fight, and like, yeah, shitty rolls are. I think shitty rolls would take the cake, but if we're talking things that are less like RNG based, there is like where we are now in a boss fight. We've dealt at least a couple hundred points of damage.
Healing you?
Yeah. Like healing is, yeah, watching your progress disappear can be rough, and I like that a lot.
Oh, man.
Don't say that.
Good stuff.
All right.
Let's see, it says, next one is, since people have been theory crafting teams to do the special fights like the Odin fight, do any of you have a team in mind that you have made for those fights? Maybe there's the teams that you'd like to see fight together for other reasons.
I've seen those threads on Reddit. I would definitely say, like, people don't, I don't know, they don't give Derek Drampt a lot of picks for some reason, and when he's like does the sickest amount of damage, and you're a sorcerer, and you can just, I don't know.
You got a lot of options. Decently on the list. I think just a lot of, like, I gotta say, I don't even know the powers of a lot of other people. Like, like even watching Shadow Day, I was like, how the fuck does Roust have plus 14 to hit? What the fuck? Like, I don't know what people have, so it's really hard to make that kind of team.
Ooh, before Braktar took his class change, his AC and everything was real fucking dense.
Yeah. Ooh. And the man's got like a triple haste. It's hard to say. You have to like be an avid, like I watch as much as I can, but I can't catch every single session, so I don't pick up every single thing that people have. Do you have a dream team, Arcadum?
Can't answer that.
You can. You can answer.
You can,
that.
But he won't, and I get why. Just Braktor.
That's it. Just throw him in.
What about you, Snake?
I don't know enough about the other characters or players really,
okay,
to make that kind of determination.
That's like, I think my favorite part about Snake is like mostly disconnected from the other game, so he acts the most in character out of everybody.
Yeah,
that's what I love.
He doesn't have all the meta knowledge we have.
Alrighty. Next is, and this is the last question. I have two very simple questions. One is for the group. What is your favorite game that you played as a kid, and why? I fucking love Jade Cocoon, dude.
Jade Cocoon?
I know that game.
Get out of Jade Cocoon, dude.
It was Pokemon before Pokemon with your little flute and your cocoons, and you combine them.
Oh, dude, you could combine them together. God, I love
I've seen this box art before.
Yeah, Jade Cocoon was sick.
It was like Pokemon. That's right. Yeah, I remember this. Yeah, that game looked pretty cool. I never played it.
Except you could crossbreed them and make monsters. And they're just horrible monstrosities.
Oh, God.
Yeah. I played a lot of GoldenEye in my day, and we played Prison Break before it was an actual Gmod mode.
Oh, yeah?
One person was the warden, the other two were like, you know, prisoners, and we'd always play in the bunker. The one that had the two cells was like, all right, get in the cell. Don't you pick up that knife. Don't you do it.
Don't you pick up that knife. Don't you pick up that knife.
We're going outside for whatever, field time. Make your time worth it. Get out there.
Get out there.
I'd have to say early days for a single player experience, Ocarina of Time, just because I thought the last boss was like the most memorable boss experience ever. But for like a multiplayer games that got me into it, I'd say Diablo 2 is the game I spent the most time as a kid.
Oh, man.
And I got fucking scammed because I thought this guy was going to dupe my SOJs, but he didn't. He just stole them and left. And I learned the hard way that people on the internet suck.
We were doing gym runs on Inferno, and I totally picked up all the gems I could before the other guy could. And I was like, see ya.
See ya, bitch. All right.
Nick?
Resident Evil or FF7.
Yep.
Easy, clean answers.
Easy, clean answer expected from Snake. All right, and then the last
All right.
question of the evening is for Snake. The other is for Snake. I saw you playing Hyrule Warriors, and I was wondering how you like it.
I think it's solid. I like some of the like flavor text that you get in some of the side mission descriptions. I think the characterization in general is pretty good. The gameplay isn't quite as deep as I would like, or just what I'm used to. But if you're used to the Dynasty Warriors style of game, I am not. You'll be right at home. And that style of game, the way they blended it with Breath of the Wild, I think it's like a glove. They keep just the right amount of Breath of the Wild in there to make it feel not cheapened, but it's different enough to be enjoyable.
I still think you got to play that game someday. It's like the perfect open world game.
Oh, it's so good. Alrighty. Well, I think that's good. That's good.
Good shit.
Yeah, it's good stuff. Concluding the Night Council. Once again, I'm Arcadum. Thanks for watching. And please follow, support, watch the streams of Scott Jund, Russ_Money, and Snake. Please support those guys. Oh, there's fan art, apparently.
Ooh.
Of course.
Whack, whack.
Arcadum, you didn't say something this stream. Are you okay?
I'm fine.
There's something that you didn't say.
I know.
Oh, you're good? All right, you hold it in. Good. You know what? Good for you, man. Well done.
Yeah. I've got my reasons.
It's ominous.
Oh, I think I know what those are.
What are they?
He's made a pact.
What?
This is pretty cool. Look at us all talking.
Yap,
Yap, yap, yap, yap, yap, yap.
Of course, you're Violet.
Yap, yap,
I'm
yap.
sleepy.
There's the picture for everybody to see. Fucking awesome. Welcome to the Night Council, where we talk about capitalism. That's so cool.
Holy shit.
What a transformation.
What a crazy place to wear a suit.
Fuck off. Dude, can I just say that avatar of you with like the Santa face is like my favorite version of you? I
Yeah.
love that version of you.
Oh, joy. Welcome. Oh, man. Alrighty. Thanks a lot for watching. That's it for the fan art. Thanks for hanging out with us. All that good stuff. I'll see you guys next week, next at games, all that good stuff. See you guys next time.
See you
Night,
then.
everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.